Real Exam English, Season 4, Crime. Hello and welcome to Real Exam English. This episode is about crime. We have speakers from the US, the UK, Ireland, Australia, and from Spain, all answering questions about their countries and what crimes are committed there. We've loads of super crime vocabulary and some excellent adverb usage, so make sure to check out the transcript, which is available on the Real Exam English website, realexamenglish.com. Okay, let's go with the questions. Is your country a safe country?
Absolutely not. We have ridiculous availability of firearms throughout most of the country. It's sick and demented and utterly unnecessary. I luckily live in a part of the country where we have very strict laws accessing and using firearms, so I feel safer here than I would in most other places in the country.
Should police in your country be stricter or less strict?
It is not really a question of strict here. It is a question of the level of appropriateness and whether police are using their level of force fairly or appropriately. Too many places, people of color are injured or killed without reason because of the nature of white supremacy and structural racism in this country. And there are not the appropriate resources to actually meet the needs of public safety.
Okay, no prizes for guessing which country this speaker is from. The US, of course. I love the adjectives and adverbs in the first answer. Absolutely not. Ridiculous availability of firearms. It's sick and demented and utterly unnecessary. I luckily live in part of the country with strict laws, so a wide range of language there, which is of course important. This adverb utterly is great. It has a similar meaning to completely or absolutely and has some common collocations like utterly ridiculous, utterly convinced, or utterly useless. In the second answer, she speaks about racial issues in the USA. A lot of people aren't sure how to speak about race in a politically correct way, and this language varies a bit from country to country, and what is acceptable changes over time too. So it was interesting to hear her say people of colour. She also mentioned white supremacy, which of course is the belief that white people are superior to other races and should dominate them. And she also referred to structural racism, which is when the whole society is structured in such a way as to favour one race and to be unfair to others. What do you think the most common crime in your country is?
Are we talking about the UK or are we talking about Spain?
Spain?
Well, I'd say in Spain, in the tourist areas, I would say pickpocketing and stealing from people's purses. There was a time where there was a lot of motorbike robbings where tourists would be walking along the street and there'd be two guys on a motorbike or two girls, whatever, and they would snatch the woman's handbag. And that was maybe 10 years ago. There was a spate of that. But now I think mainly it's pickpockets in big cities like Barcelona and Madrid. You've got to be really careful. I think more than anything else, it's probably that. I don't think there's really mega serious crime, or I'm not aware of it where I live.
Do you think that young criminals should be sent to prison for serious crimes?
Well, of course. How can the answer not be yes? What young criminals? What age? I mean, if it's a young criminal of 10 years old, then that's another thing. Yeah, they should be sent to a juvenile detention centre where they try to re-educate them. But in general, if they're young 17, 18-year-olds and they know what they're doing, then of course they should go to prison. It depends on the crime as well. So you need more information, don't you, to be able to give a good reason why you would send them. But yeah, if they've done something bad, then Yeah, they should go to prison. And if they're too young, then they should go to juvenile detention.
A lovely London accent there from one of my fellow Cambridge examiners here in Spain. We heard a few different crimes being mentioned: robbing, stealing, pickpocketing. This last one is where someone takes something from your pocket or bag without you noticing. As she said, it's very common in touristy areas, and she said that sometimes people snatch a woman's handbag, which is to grab it or take it by force. Another example would be, I had my mobile phone snatched while I was walking down the street. She also mentioned that there was a spate of these snatchings. This word spate is great. It means large numbers of unpleasant things happening around the same time. Like there was a spate of burglaries on my street, or the police are investigating a spate of muggings in the city centre. And lastly, she talked about juvenile detention centre, which is where youngsters who are not yet 18 are sent as punishment rather than prison, which is for adults. Is your country a safe country?
Well, we live in Australia, and I would definitely say it's a safe country. But, you know, like anywhere, if you go out some places at night, you know, you need to take extra caution. But I think that's just being sensible.
Do you think criminals can change?
It's not really a subject that I know a lot about. I'd like to think that there's the possibility, of course, that they could, you know, change and learn things. But because there's a lot of re-offenders, then that's probably just not a realistic belief of mine.
Okay, so she starts her second answer here with, it's not really a subject that I know a lot about. This is a really handy sentence for an exam. Very often, particularly in C1 and C2 exams, you get asked questions that you really haven't thought about before, or you might have not much knowledge of. This doesn't mean that you still can't give a good answer, however. So you can start off with something like this. It's not really a subject that I know a lot about, to be honest. And follow with a short and sweet speculative answer like, I suppose that, or I imagine. And then wait for your next question where hopefully you can give a longer, more detailed answer. In this case, the speaker expands her answer with, I'd like to think that there's a possibility they can change. This, I'd like to think that, is a super chunk of language. You use it when you hope something is true, but you're not really sure that it is. For instance, I'd like to think that my business is going to be successful, or I'd like to think that my daughter always tells me the truth. This is just a reminder to get in touch if you're looking for English classes. There are currently groups open for B2, C1 and C2 levels. Some students are preparing for exams, others are just attending to keep their level up to scratch. Another option is individual classes where you can focus more on something specific, like preparing for an interview, general conversation, or exam preparation. You can find details on the Real Exam English website, realexamenglish.com. What do you think the most common crime in your country is?
Goodness, I don't know. I stay out of the way here. If I was in the UK, I'd probably say something like speeding, or maybe smoking some exotic herbs. But yeah, I'd say in the UK, I'd say speeding. Over here, everyone's quite well behaved. It's Germany, so you know they like to stick to the rules.
Do you think that video games encourage young people to commit crimes?
No. I think we had this, didn't we? We had this when I was young. Music encourages young people. This encourages young people. That encourages young people. I think some young people don't need any encouragement to commit crimes. Some middle-aged people don't need any encouragement to commit crimes. I think that's down to the individual rather than any outside influence. I mean, I've watched horror movies all my life, and I've never once chopped someone up with a chainsaw.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, no. The day's young. It's only midday.
Some British humour there for you. He starts his first answer with goodness, which is a very polite substitute for saying God. He mentions speeding, which is driving your car too fast, and smoking exotic herbs, speaking about marijuana, of course. Like in most languages, I guess, there are numerous ways of talking about marijuana. The most common ones in English are weed, grass, pot, dope, ganja, Mary Jane, reefer, and the list goes on. Whether or not smoking weed is a crime depends on the country these days, of course, but it looks like the general trend is towards legalization, including in Germany, where the speaker was recording from. Interestingly, he said that he finds people well behaved in Germany, that they stick to the rules, which I guess is a bit of a stereotype most outsiders have of Germany. Whether true or not, I don't know. Is your country a safe country?
Yes, our country would be predominantly a safe country. You have to keep your wits about you and be mindful of other people and to not go out alone, for example. But I can easily get the train, the dart, a taxi home alone without being in fear of being mugged. If you go into our city centre, it might be a little bit more on the rough side with more people that are poor, which is unfortunate. However, generally, it is safe enough to walk through the city centre as long as you are being considerate of those around you.
Do you think that young criminals should be sent to prison for serious crimes?
I think that it depends on the crime. I think that they should go into some sort of rehabilitation and have a big brother type organised situation for them. I think that their background and history needs to be looked at as well, because a lot of it could be to do with education. So maybe through lack of education, they may not know a better route in life. So I think they need to be helped first and foremost, if at all possible.
This speaker said that her country, which is Ireland, by the way, is predominantly a safe country. This adverb predominantly is nice, isn't it? It's like a fancier way of saying mainly or mostly, like India is predominantly a Hindu country, or the school focuses predominantly on science. Then we have this excellent expression, you have to keep your wits about you, which means you have to be alert and vigilant in case there's any danger. Like as a solo backpacker, you have to keep your wits about you at all times. She mentioned being mugged, which is to attack someone and steal their possessions, and that the city centre can be a bit more on the rough side, which means it's a bit more dangerous and dodgy. And lastly, she recommends some sort of rehabilitation where the criminals return to a good way of life again, using education first and foremost. Nice. Well, on that positive note, we'll leave it there for today. Thankfully, you have chosen the path of education, and that's why you're here listening to this podcast. Hopefully you found the episode useful, and remember to keep an eye out for more episodes in the near future. All the best. Trevor.